You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
All right, it's that time of year, that time of the week. It's football season, and welcome back. This is the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. You're coming here from the Wyatt Law Studios. We want to thank you guys. A lot of y'all have shared our podcast and liked our podcast, and we want to thank you for that because it has helped us become extremely successful in the podcast arena. So Thank you very much for that. Continue to, hopefully we'll do that. And Levon, this week, you had the opportunity to talk to the Columbia Touchdown Club.
Yes.
Great group of people. How was that?
Group. Oh, man, we had a fantastic time. Mike went with me. We was at Sewell. I mean, it's a stone throw away from William Bryce Stadium, so I was pretty excited about
You love that place, don't you?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of home away from home. But, you know, what we did talk about, we talked about connections and how we all connected in some kind of way, how we all have a heartbeat, we have blood running through our veins, that we love people. And, you know, football is a great way for all those people to come together. So we talked about the connections that we have with one another. We also talked about making a difference through football. So our message really got out there. We had our wristbands, we had membership cards telling everybody to join the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. We had a great time, and we just want to thank the Touchdown Club for allowing us to be there. Mikey?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great time. Talked about how giving back is important, and of course that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, we're
making a difference through football. And of course, this week we have Steve Greer as our guest.
Steve Greer,
class of 2019 inductee. Of course, Greer, you might recognize that last name. Of course, there's a Greer, South Carolina.
There's a Greer.
Yes, they are connected. His family, that's his family's name.
There you go.
So does he have a key to the city?
I mean, I think he should, but he has a high school named after him, right? Technically, Greer High School. But known as an undersized player going into Georgia, recruited to Georgia. Also recruited by Clemson, but Clemson didn't really think that he was Clemson stuff. So you'll hear a little bit about that in the interview. But went down to Georgia, became an All-American Circle of Honor recipient in 2014, and brought in some amazing support in April at our class of 2019.
Yeah, they love that man.
Yes, they do.
Awesome. I mean, literally a third of the group were Georgia, and literally a Go Dogs chant went out in the middle of the ceremony. So, you know, if you like Georgia, that was really fun. And to have also Coach Dooley there as well on one side, and Coach Ford on the other side.
Vince Dooley,
That made things a little bit interesting. I'm surprised the fight didn't.
I'm surprised too.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was some Coach Ford shots rung out at that time, but it was a great group that came out, and we heard so many stories leading up to Coach Greer's induction, and just amazing the type of group of people that were involved with that. But then once we started telling people about Steve Greer, they're like, man, I have stories about him.
We've heard a lot of stories about him. You're right, Mike. And I tell you, this podcast, one of the things I love about Levon, your style of interviewing, because we get a lot of stories here for the listeners, and a lot of those stories aren't the kind you hear all the time on different sports shows. It's fantastic. Steve Greer, he is one of my favorite people. We're honored to have him in this Hall of Fame. And you're right, he gave us some interesting tidbits in this interview we're about to hear about the difference between recruiting from Clemson and Georgia. And of course, you know, you can hear about yourself. You know, hey, we think you can be great, or we think you're going to be good. How does that ring true? Well, he's living proof of how that rings true. And of course, that's another thing about the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. When we have our induction in April every year, and we encourage you to come out if you can get a ticket for that. It's wonderful to see all the different, representations from schools all across the country with South Carolina, because South Carolina really does touch football across the country.
No doubt about it.
And, you have Gamecocks and Tigers and Georgia Bulldogs and Wofford Terriers and South Carolina State Bulldogs and Furman Paladins and Citadel Bulldogs, Benedict Tigers. You got all of them that are getting along in the same place.
For at least one night.
For at least one night.
That's right.
Fantastic.
That's right.
And of course, Dave Roberts, who's on our board of advisors, he's a great football player in his own right, was a coach for many years. He told us about Steve Greer. Now, Steve Greer started out as a write-in. So those of you that have joined the Hall of Fame, or if you hadn't joined, that's an opportunity for you to write in who you want to see in our Hall of Fame, who deserves it. And that's how Steve Greer started out and had the overwhelming support. And of course, Coach Roberts was like, Steve Greer was one of the best players I ever played against. Talked about how tough he was, how quick he was. And of course, the thing, I want to get to this interview because it's a fantastic interview. Yeah. So while you're listening, think about this. What do Billy Payne of Augusta National and Herschel Walker have in common? So, again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate you listening and the support for the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame in our communities. Stick in there. We're going to be right back with Steve Greer and the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
This is Steve Greer. You're listening to the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Hey, welcome back to the Wyatt Studio, Law Studio. We're here today, and it's a wonderful day to make a difference through football. So today we have one of our Hall of Famers, one of the mean, lean fight machines back in the 1960s, Steve Greer. Mr. Greer, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Levon. Good to be with you today.
Man, we are so appreciative of you being on the show today. Are we ready to get started?
I'm with you.
Okay, now here's a hard one for you. What was your least favorite food as a kid?
The least favorite food? I didn't have one.
You didn't have a least favorite food?
What? I ate everything that was put on my plate.
Well, I'm eating everything that comes on my plate too, so I definitely understand that. Now tell me, a guy like yourself from South Carolina with the namesake of Greer, how in the world did we lose you to Georgia?
Well, I had one visit down to the University of Georgia, and I met a guy by the name of Erskine Russell, and he convinced me that I was going to be a great defensive player for the University. And of course, Coach Howard said, I think you'll be a good player for us.
Oh, so the difference in the sentence from great player to okay player is the reason why you went to Georgia.
They just put the recruiting spill on me better than Coach Howard did.
Well, you know what? I'm sure that Georgia over the years probably so happy that you did that. And I got to tell you, when we were in our ceremony dinner, you were a rock star. You had over like 100 people that was at the ceremony. It blew my mind. I mean, can you explain that? One day I want to get 100 people to come to anything that I'm in. Can you give me some tips?
You have to understand that a lot of those were former teammates, and then I coached for so long at Georgia, and a lot of them are former players.
Wow.
Matter of fact, this past weekend, they named the field is Dooley Field. It's Dooley Field at Sanford Stadium. And Friday night before the game on Saturday, we had guys who was like all of Coach Dooley's living lettermen were there, and it was just a great evening, chance to see people you hadn't seen in years and years and years, teammates that I'd played with, and then people that I'd coached over the years. So it was great to be with them on Friday night, and then on Saturday, of course, they had a big deal with Coach Dooley there on the field, naming the field for him, and he had all his former captains standing in behind him. And fortunately, I was a captain in my senior year, and I was just very proud to be part of that.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, a lot of times we don't understand the difference that football makes. Could you tell us what difference football made in your life?
Well, it's just it was my life forever. When I finished playing, I went right into coaching, and my wife. Fortunately, my wife was a good mother and raised our 3 kids while I was out recruiting and raising other people's children for them.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I think in football, that wife is so important. You really have to have a good support system. And it seems like you have a good support system.
No question about it. And she's been, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary back in June, on June the 14th. So
happy anniversary.
With me for a long time.
Congratulations.
50? Wow, that's fantastic. She deserves a medal.
Several medals.
Yeah, we coaches can be kind of tough to deal with sometimes. We really can.
Well, when I retired, it was amazing. I'd never just sat down and watched a football game with her. When I retired, we were watching one of the games on TV one afternoon. Hell, she knew more about it than I did.
Wow. Well, women are smarter, though.
She said, "Well, hell, I've been watching games as long as you've been playing and coaching."
Wow, that's great. Now you were known as a tremendous recruiter back in your time. What's the thing that you liked about recruiting? When you're sitting across from a family, sitting across from a young man, what was the thing that really drew you to being a recruiter?
Well, just trying to be upfront and honest, and to tell a young man, and especially the parents, what you could do for him as far as the academic end of it, and what he could do when he came in as a player. Sell the school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, you must have did a tremendous job, because during your time, Georgia had some really good teams. Now, I'm not sure if I got this right, but you actually recruited Herschel Walker?
I was a recruiting coordinator when he was being recruited. Matter of fact, I was coaching at Auburn prior to coming back to Georgia in '79, and I'd recruited him for Auburn for a year or two. Came to Georgia, I just kept recruiting him, changed schools. Said, now you need to come into in-state school.
Right. Well, you must have had a big influence. If you were recruiting him in Auburn, then he actually goes to Georgia.
Well, I'm sorry, do what now?
I said you must have had a really big influence on him, because you were at Auburn, and then he actually went to Georgia when you went to Georgia. So you had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. It was funny, but the little town of Wrightsville, Georgia, there was coaches from all over the country there every day. Of course, the rules were completely different back in those days. You could see them every day. I got tired of watching basketball practice and then track practice, and had a lot of the old saying. We had a lot of pickup basketball games. I know Coach Ford loved to play a pickup basketball game, and we'd stand around waiting, trying to recruit her.
Right.
So, Coach Greer, this is David Wyatt. I wanted to ask you a little bit about when you played your playing days. I had the opportunity, the pleasure of talking to one of your former teammates, a guy named Billy Payne. And he said you were one of the toughest players he'd ever played with, and one of the quickest players he'd ever played with. And I was wondering, what kind of player was Billy Payne?
Billy Payne was an outstanding player. He came in as a tight end. He played tight end one year, and then they shifted him over to play defensive end his senior year, and started for 3 years on offense and on defense. And of course, we coached together 1 year as graduate assistants, and he got his law degree and never looked back. Of course, he went on to become a great lawyer in Atlanta, and then brought the Olympics in, and then most recently was the head man at the Augusta National.
It's an amazing story, Coach. This is Mike Foster. It's an honor to have you with us today on the Inside Blitz. It was an honor to deal with all your supporters and see the letters that were coming in for your support, and to actually have an opportunity to meet you in April. And it was just an honor to have you with us and celebrate with us. But my question is this. Obviously, you and Coach Dooley had spent a lot of time together at Georgia. Is there is there someone that you really looked up to that was a mentor to you as you were either playing or became a coach? And what kind of things, how important was it to have that kind of mentorship as you were going along in your career?
Well, I guess you'd say I probably had two. As a player, it was Erskine Russell. I lived and breathed with everything he said. And then when I went to Auburn, it was Shug Jordan, the head coach over there for a long time. And then fortunately, going back to talking about Erk Russell, I was fortunate enough to play for him. And then when I came back to Georgia, I was able to coach with him for 2 years, 79 and 80, and won the national championship in 80 with him. And of course, he went to started back football at Georgia Southern in 81. So he was the guy everybody looked up to, and was, I guess you'd say, was my mentor through my early coaching career.
Was there something that any of them said that stuck with you that you said, okay, I need to learn this, and then I need to pass this along to the kids that I coach? Well,
I think from Erk and Coach Dooley and all the coaches that I was under over the years, the main thing was just to teach technique. To teach technique, not to yell technique. I never liked the yelling coaches that much, and I guess to show them, if they can't get it straight, let's show them again instead of hollering.
Good stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. And, I was kind of like that, too. I kind of like the coaches that were instructors and instead of the ones that were hollers, as you call them. Coach, yeah. we really do appreciate your time here, your energy. We love that you brought all that fan support. Do you think you can bring this fan support next year, get them to come to the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame?
Wouldn't that be great, bring another 100 up there?
That would be tremendous.
Well, maybe I can get Mike Oakes, the guy that stood up right before I started talking, and said we had to have one big bark.
Right.
It was pretty surreal to have all them Tigers and Gamecocks and Auburn Tigers in there, and then for a UGA Go Dogs come out of that ceremony. That was pretty surreal.
Well, yeah.
pretty strong, and the crazy thing about it, after it was over with, of course, I've been knowing Danny Ford since playing days in college, but he said, "God dang it, Greer, you came up here again and embarrassed South Carolina, Clemson, and Auburn, bringing all those rednecks out of Georgia."
Well, I tell you, we had Deshaun Watson. He received the Blanchard Rogers Award, and of course, George Rogers gave him that award. And one of the things that Deshaun said was, "I love this night because we can all come together in South Carolina and appreciate the game of football and be friends." It's a great camaraderie.
Right. Yep. It just brings everybody together.
That's right.
And we appreciate you bringing those Georgia Bulldogs. It's a great what a great fan base. A lot of energy, as Levon likes to say.
Energy, yes. Great ambassadors of the game. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you, Coach. Take care.
Be good.
See you now. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was Steve Greer. What an amazing interview. A great man, an incredible legacy he leaves behind. It was an honor to have him on the show.
Yeah, my whole dream one day is to have 100 people follow me somewhere. And when he brought all those folks in, I was like, oh, my God, that's amazing.
You're selling him short. I think he had like 150.
I had 150, but, for someone to be beloved that way and to have that much support, that really means that he is a great man and that he did a lot for a lot of people, and he made a difference through football.
Well, and one of the things we talk about the process of voting and getting people on the ballot and stuff like that, and we talk about, hey, you can write in your own guy, or you can give us a nomination to help to get him on our nomination list, and it was never more true than Steve Greer.
Well, Steve Greer definitely had great support. That's what happened. And he had a lot of great people. Coach Dooley, Vince Dooley, was at our
to have Vince induction. And Coach Ford on opposite ends of the ceremony is amazing.
And, of course, Billy Payne, former chairman of Augusta National, and he would have been there, sent me a message right at the last minute saying, I've got to actually deal with some personal issues in Houston, but he's a great ambassador. We're honored to have him in the Hall of Fame, honored to have him on this show, and honored to have you listening. So thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate you very much. Stick around. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
All right, welcome back to the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland from the Wyatt Law Studios. What a fantastic interview with Steve Greer, a Hall of Famer in his own right. What a fantastic man he is. He's part of the Circle of Honor in Georgia. And I tell you what, the Georgia elite and the Georgia fan and the faithful have really supported him. Of course, my middle name is Sanford. I always had a soft spot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. Learn something all the time. Of course, I tell people that I was named after my father's favorite 70s television program.
Blind Mellow Jealous.
I want my daddy's records.
I want my daddy's records.
But, of course, it was my grandfather's name, my mother's father, Robert Sanford Woodleaf. Cool. And love him, very proud of his name, and I do like to enjoy it, having a little fun with it. So the Georgia elite, Steve Greer, Hall of Famer, Herschel Walker, recruiter, Billy Payne, teammate, and just an all-around great man. We're honored to have him in the Hall of Fame, and we appreciate all of his friends and supporters coming out to the event and listening to this podcast, and, of course, supporting the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, helping us make a difference through football, joining up as a member. And this is one of our favorite segments. We're going to move on at the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. We're all about leadership.
Yes, indeed.
And, of course, that requires us to lead ourselves first. So we try to lead ourselves first, and then we lead others. And, Levon, you have been in a number of leadership positions, some of which you asked for, and some of which, like with the Steelers, you maybe didn't ask for initially.
You got to take over the huddle, Levon. Yes, I remember that day.
So, but this is a section that you call the Inside Look, where you reveal to our audience a little leadership lesson. So without further ado, I'm coming to you, Levon Kirkland. What is your inside look, my friend?
Well, Mr. Stanford, we're going to talk about thinking. And all thinking has eternal dynamics. It leads somewhere, and when acted upon, has consequences. For example, fools measure actions after they are done by the event. But wise men, before, by the rules of reason. So wise men think before they act. Even in the food you eat, the amount of exercise you get, how you spend your time, it's all about your thinking. So what I'm going to try to ask you to do is really consider this. Acting actually. Consider the implication of your acting and your actions, before acting. So before you act, think about what you're doing and what those consequences are going to be.
That's good right there, the inside look. So it's this concept of thinking. My parents used to say you got to look before you leap.
That's right.
And so how do you set aside time each day to think about it? I mean, is that how you handle that?
Well, I'm a strange bird sometimes. So a lot of times when I get to the office, man, I take a little time and just kind of meditate and think about what I want to do that day. Make sure that I'm intentional in what I want to do, and make sure that I'm just not really just being impulsive, just kind of just doing something. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being spontaneous. But when we're talking about what we're doing and how important what we're doing, you got to think. You got to be a leader, and you got to make sure that, you understand that your actions have consequences.
And it's true, because I've come in there several times while he's been meditating.
Yeah, just interrupting me.
Interrupting him. So I need to think about my actions a little bit better and back into my office.
But Mike, you like to be spontaneous.
That's right.
That's why you do it. It's no big problem.
Well, it's very good. And that's a great tip, to think before you do something. And that act of thinking helps actually release energy and focus, which brings things to life, which that's exciting.
No question.
And we are the Football Hall of Fame, so let's talk about football.
Yeah,
Mike, we had an exciting weekend of football. Give us a little update on South Carolina and the teams.
And you know what? This is October now.
Yep. We're into October.
Yep. I call this moving month.
Moving month.
Moving month. It means that on our Blanchard Rogers watch list, people are going up and they're going down.
It's moving month.
And so there's people going up. Of course, by the end of the month, we'll have a finalist list that we'll reveal.
Exciting.
So the people who are the cream is going to the top.
Yes.
And those that aren't the cream are kind of going back to the bottom, which is fine.
Hey,
it's awesome.
We love you all.
We love them all.
But only one gets the trophy.
That's right. That's right. But congratulations to Furman, Clemson, South Carolina, Limestone, Newberry. Limestone and Newberry gets their first wins of the season.
Congratulations,
guys.
Limestone, if you listen to our podcast about with the college SIDs,
the preview show,
they told you that they didn't win a game last year.
Wow.
So they've gone 0-15, and so to get that win was big for them this past weekend.
No question.
So
get over the hump. Keep it going.
Way to go, Saints.
Keep them low.
And then, of course, Wofford also got a victory this weekend as well. So way to go, Terriers. But the team that really stood out to me were the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, I thought so.
24-7 victory over Kentucky. Maybe one of the better games that they've played as a whole for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys were boosted. The Gamecocks were boosted by two-headed running attack and Dowdle and Feaster, the two seniors or grad students, if you'd like to say that. Both went over 100 yards. Feaster had 2 touchdowns. Rico Dowdle had 1. Rico actually got hurt later in the game, and Feaster came in and shut down Kentucky and really just showed some physicality.
Yeah, he's quality back now.
And
he can run.
Yeah.
And had some great runs there in the fourth quarter. And, of course, defensive end DJ Wanham, another senior, put up a 3-sack game, which helped keep the defense rolling as well. So
you know why they play so well?
Why is that?
Because I talked to the touchdown club.
That's right. You were in Columbia.
Was there. Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
Get them all fired up.
Got them all fired up.
That's right. Big day for South Carolina. I think that they should be able to take that, hopefully, and use some of that momentum for the rest of the season as they go into the tougher part of their schedule.
Yeah.
And then big shout out quick to John Maine Martin. We mentioned his name a couple of weeks ago when he had like 300 rushing yards, but he put up 4 more rushing touchdowns this weekend for NCA&T. He's from Conway. Actually is a transfer from Coastal Carolina.
Okay.
But he has 8 rushing touchdowns on the season already through 4 games. So that's
pretty
if he
strong.
keeps that going up, he's going to be doing pretty well. And a little bit of a South Carolina humble brag. A couple weeks ago, the Pro Football Hall of Fame announced their 2020 nominees, and wouldn't you know, a couple of our nominees ended up on that list. Brad Coates, Chester McLaughlin, your buddy Chester. Yep. And then along with that list were 2018 inductees, our buddy Richard Seymour and Lamar High School alum John Abraham was also on that list. So we come back, we talked about going to the ceremony.
Yep.
Class of 2018. Of course, Richard Seymour's on this Pro Football Hall of Fame list, and John Abraham's on this Pro Football Hall of Fame list. And in 2018, we had Clay Matthews, Junior there, who's on the list. This year.
Wow, man.
His brother Bruce, who is a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
He was there.
And he was there. So how many Pro Football Hall of Famers possibly was in that room? At least 5.
At least 5, yeah.
So that's pretty dang good, right?
Well, and
you do a good job of choosing people, Mike. It's all on you, Mike. You're doing an incredible job.
It's actually you guys, the voters.
That's right.
Doing a fantastic
That's why I say it's a South Carolina humble brag, because it's not us. It's South Carolina as a state and what they've been able to produce. Of course, the Matthews brothers don't have weren't born here, but their father grew up in Charleston, and he was a legacy inductee that year, and they both came.
That's right.
So
that South Carolina root was right there.
That's right. They got some South Carolina blood in there.
A little connection
and
there.
Also, Levon, there was another young man there who was getting the Blanchard Rogers Award.
That's right.
He played for your Steelers. Tell us about the Steelers win this weekend. Did you watch that game?
Yeah, I watched the game last night. Mason Rudolph I thought he did a great job. I know a lot of people got on him about maybe not passing the ball over 15 yards or so, but hey, a win is a win. And I thought he did an excellent job coming there. Had a lot of poise, man, had a lot of energy. So Mason, man, good job.
Well, as a quarterback, you're supposed to get the ball to the
open guy.
Right?
Yes.
15 yards a clip. You're not going to hear many people argue about that.
If someone tells you, hey, I'm going to go 24 of 28 for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'm not going to get sacked and I'm not going to throw an interception and I'm going to win 28-3.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people are going to be mad about that.
Especially when you win from being 0-3.
Yeah, I mean,
that's good. I thought he did a great job.
Big props to Mason. It was cool to see him getting interviewed on ESPN afterwards, and the fact that he's part of our family.
We can always say we remember him win.
That's right. That's right. On Monday Night Football, which is a cool deal. So,
yeah, it is cool.
But yeah, and a little quick shout out to Gallman too. First start. Wayne Gallman from Clemson, first start with the New York Giants, went over 100 total yards and had rushing touchdown and receiving touchdown in his first start in the NFL.
Wayne train.
And also got a W as well. So, hey, what you going to do about that?
Yeah. Here comes the flag.
Oh, no, there it is. The Willie Jeffries flag coming from our fierce producer, Evan Tripp, which we appreciate all the good work that you do for us.
Thank you, Evan.
And we appreciate you tuning in. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We have a lot of other stories, so you'll have to tune in next week right here, same place, Apple Podcasts. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Facebook. You can get us on Spotify. And we really do appreciate it. Please share it and continue to pass the word and help the cause to make a difference through football. We're the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. I'm your co-host, David Wyatt, Mikey Football. We'll see you next time.
You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.